Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenneth Johnson, and you are listening to This Is Me podcast. Today, we will discuss masculinity and femininity stereotypes in society. Why does society view femininity as weak while masculinity is the stronger of the two? Our goal today is to accept masculine or feminine traits as part of individuals' personality. According from the source Goodman Project, no one is saying that all masculinity or that men themselves are toxic. You are free to like the things that men stereotypically like, such as sports, cars, and the opposite sex with no judgment. But when does masculinity become toxic? Toxic masculinity derives from a rejection of the perceived opposites, such as femininity, that it's so pervasive as to become unhealthy for both men and those around them. I have 3 guests today to answer a few questions of these stereotypes. We will uncover where these stereotypes form, the damages they cause to people individually, and what changes needed to progress in society. Before we even discuss masculinity versus femininity traits, we need to discover the origins of these stereotypes. My first guest today is Dr. Jeffrey Coleman. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Coleman. Can you please state your occupation?
Yes. So I'm the director of the Multicultural Center here at Georgia State University. In the Multicultural Center, we do programming that helps students identify their purpose and do that through experiences related to cultural competence, diverse learning environments, and community building.
Have you ever experienced social construct phrases such as, you should be this, or real men only do this?
Oh, yes, definitely. A lot of that will come from, I think, like male family members, right? Uncles, our dads, our grandfathers, and then sometimes it'll come from women. I know as somebody who identifies as heterosexual, there have been women that I've dated that have said, you're the man, you're supposed to do this. Or, real men should be doing X, Y, and Z, which sort of diminishes your masculinity in front of them, right? And so that creates all sorts of other, nuances that are kind of awkward now. We're in this relationship now, you're saying that I'm not really a man. Like, what are you trying to say? That sort of thing.
Where do you think masculinity and femininity come from?
I think it comes from pop culture and media. I think what we see in the movies and on TV defines roles for men and women. I think it comes from what was passed down generationally, so what our parents told us and our grandparents told us, and that's how we were taught to have this gender identity.
And why does society seem like they praise masculinity more than femininity?
Because we're in a male patriarchal society where you'll see, I think we've seen examples in our previous presidential elections where just in the United States of America, you'll have women who will more so support a man who is not being very respectful of femininity and women in general. But you'll have women that will support that man over another woman who's running for the same position, the most powerful position in the world, which speaks volumes, I think, that we are still a male-dominated, male-run society. And even if we are outnumbered by women, we still have women who believe that women should not have, that type of position.
So is there any last thoughts you would like to say about masculinity versus femininity and the origins?
Yeah, I'd say just remember that masculinity and femininity are social constructs. So it's what society has created and defined for us.
Thank you very much for this wonderful discussion.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. All right.
Thank you. Our next guest is a Georgia State student who identifies as a feminist straight man. Kevin Obregon is here with us to discuss the dangers of toxic masculinity.
Hi, Kenny. How's it going?
Hi, Kevin. So, can you describe what masculinity is, some traits of it?
we always go sporty. We always use for some reason we always. I don't know if it's a social thing that people put it, but people always view femininity as more the weaker or like the more submissive. We've always had this conversation where the female or the femininity parts of people are considered submissive, when in actuality, well, that was an accent. Actuality, it's really not. I see both femininity and masculinity having their dominance in situations equally, but whatever. To me, I've noticed that masculinity, at least in the toxic sense, predatory. It's kind of very predatory, and we kind of allow it to be. Like, we promote it in media and be like, oh, that's a normal thing for a kid to, a boy to do.
Which I don't want like anybody to think that masculinity is a bad thing.
No,
we're trying to see like masculinity. It's okay to be masculine.
Yes,
it's okay to be feminine, but
it's okay to be both at the same time.
But it's just like to the point of like, when does it get to like that whole toxic masculinity?
You want me to get like just the toxic?
No,
because we can go in the long run.
I meant like, when does like this whole masculinity, like when does it get to a toxic point?
I think it gets to a toxic point when it starts harming the masculine and the feminine at the same time. And what I mean by that is, for example, I was watching this YouTube video about masculinity, fun facts. So they brought up good points that I noticed that masculinity that harms both femininity and like male and female at the same time, being almost like a bullying thing. Like, for example, if you look at like Back to the Future, they brought the good character, like that main character, that bully guy, that he was like, the girl's like, oh, I went to a prom date with this dude, and then he was just like, no, you're not, you're going with me. Anyone who was in that scenario, I'd be like, you're funny, why are you trying to tell me what to do? But this girl just like, okay. But it's like you feel uncomfortable because there's a lot of assertion of like, this is what you're going to do, you're going to do what I say. Or you kind of you manipulate certain situations where it's like, I'm in control, you're not in control. Another thing that I've noticed with toxic masculinity, we have this whole sexualization hypersexualization of women, to the point where we kind of just view them as objects. We don't even view them as humans. And I wouldn't say all men, let's be real, not all men, because you get raised in communities or family members that don't do that. But in a lot of media or a lot of stuff, even from the back in the days and somewhat currently, because I mean they're trying to progress it out, but it's still shown in like, oh, the guy, if he wants the girl's attention or the girl to give him attention, he kind of has to really push himself onto her, basically being like, hi, my name is this, oh, let's go here, no, let's come here, or like basically manipulate a situation where she has to be in that situation with you, whether she has no knowledge of it or you forcefully put her in this situation. That's not okay. Even in guy situations where guys will try to be like, oh, belittle others just because they do certain things that is not making them more assertive than others.
Thank you for unpacking about the dangers of toxic masculinity.
You're welcome.
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Finally, another Georgia State student joins us in discussing how to change social stereotypes of masculinity and femininity. Dhamier Knight is a gay man who describes himself as fluid in both masculine and feminine. Thank you so much for joining the show.
No problem, Kenny.
So, my first question is, why do you think people find femininity weak?
Because, well, we're going to undermine the patriarchy right here, but it's because everyone's attributed masculinity to mean strength. And it's a problem because with femininity comes courage and can also come power. But when we only label masculine male stereotypes as what it takes to become good and strong, then that's when a lot of insecurities and problems arise.
So you're saying more like because the media is showing, or not just media, society is showing like masculinity is the right thing to do. People who are feminine, it's a personal problem for them because they get scared and they get insecure and they don't have any confidence in themselves, and it takes them years to finally find that confidence. Yeah. So what do you think we could do to change that, to make sure like people who are feminine, they could just be themselves?
to change that, we have to change our views, honestly. Like, too many people say, oh, I'm not like that. But when you see a little baby boy, you immediately go, oh, you're going to be a strong man and have a good wife and great kids. And we immediately place those labels on them. And whether it's subconscious or conscious, we still do it. And we have to notice, like, that we do it in order to change it.
Do you think, because masculinity and femininity, these are just labels, and we're trying to get, in order to be progressive, we have to start breaking these labels, because nobody wants, I think we're getting to that point where we don't want to just be called like, oh, look, Dhamier is a gay feminine man, or I'm a gay feminine queen. Do you think these labels harm society in any way?
I think the labels are something that's just natural to, like, human instinct, because we call it what we see. But the reason that they're so harmful is that these labels aren't being used as labels. They're more so being used as insults or derogatory terms that start attacking the people and their actions. Like, a label is supposed to describe something, but when you start using it as an insult to describe something bad or give it context that's good, bad, right, wrong, it's no longer a label at that point.
Going forward, are there any last thoughts you would like to say about these labels?
The difference that we can make is by trying to make a difference. Like, many people know the issues are there, but they don't choose to do anything about them. And I think if we really want to change these labels and stop them, we have to do something revolutionary, essentially. We have to make a show or make a stand that we may be gay, but that's not the end of our story. And so far, I don't think there's anything that's really tried. I know, well, there's nothing that really points to that. Like, there are more gay characters coming in media, but they're all side characters. Then we have a show like Queer Eye, but then there's nothing else. Like, I've looked, trust me. We don't have nothing that breaks the gay stereotype and supports us on the same level as, say, a heterosexual thing. There's always a difference, and that's the problem.
Thank you very much for talking about people affected by labels, and we definitely got to unpack that. So, did you enjoy your time?
I did.
Well, thank you very much, Dhamier.
Thank you very much, Kenny the Queen.
And that wraps up our show. Thank you for tuning in to This Is Me podcast. We got to break down masculine versus femininity stereotypes. Tune in next time as we discuss character stereotypes in media and their influence in society. What media character is your favorite and why? I'm Kenneth Johnson. Have a nice day.